We're going to move on to the next part of the afternoon, which is our speaker panel and some questions and discussions from day one. So if I invite our speakers to come on stage, we have some chairs set up here. So Dr. Anise Bailey, Mary Flanagan, Liz O'Sullivan, Margaret Donovan, Dr. Ulrika Henneman, and Dr. Anne Hegarty. Okay, that's perfect. We'll get you water. We have apologies from Roisin Doherty. She had to leave, unfortunately, but... Okay, so in the centre of the floor, Clare Barry is here with a yellow roving mic, which will move around the room, and we will identify different individuals that would like to ask some questions. If you could stand up when you are going to give your question, and maybe just identify yourself so we can get a context of where you're coming from or what area you're working in. And if you want to address your question to a particular panel speaker, that's fine too. If not, we can decide up here amongst us who will answer the question. So have we anybody that would like to ask some questions? Yep. Margot here.
That was really interesting. My question's for Anne. My name is Margot Walsh. I'm literacy organiser in Clare. And Anne, I'd be really interested in finding out how you engaged the dads in your research, because it sounded like they got what education can do and the benefits of it, but I'm sure they weren't to start with. So I'm just wondering, how did you engage them in the first place?
Well, as I said earlier, I'd been involved in adult education for a long time in kind of the Dublin area. And so what I did was I tapped into the networks that I had and met with coordinators mostly and, described the project and asked them, did they think if anybody would be interested? And so I was very fortunate because they kind of recruited groups for me. Now, I think that the photography element of the project really attracted a lot of participants, and they loved the idea, I think, of being able to take photographs at home and in the working out of the project, there was a lot of joy, if you like, when they talked about the photographs, they talked first of all about, how they were going to set up the photographs and the discussions they'd had in their family. So the actual methodology, in a way, it sort of leaked out into communities in some ways, as did the family literacy discussions, So mostly personal network, and then going to meet with the men, and sometimes meeting in ones or twos and sometimes in a group. And not all of the men that I met chose to participate, and indeed some men who were in dispute with partners around custody issues and stuff, they all took themselves right out of it immediately. But and I think one of the great things about the research was, and that's something that demonstrates how much the men enjoyed it, the attendance for the workshops was, a couple of the workshops was 100% for the 3 workshops, and then after that, for the 15 out of 20 men took part in the one-to-one interviews. So I think the photography really was attractive. So I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Anne. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So my question will be, I think, for Mrs. Ulrike from Germany. My question is actually, how do you manage to get involved the most vulnerable population into the project? What are the steps that you do? How do you get to this public?
Okay, I was not talking from a specific program perspective. I was looking at good practice that we have collected from different countries and from very different contexts. So I tried to give some examples in this regard. I don't know if you remember one slide on promising strategies to engage and to retain. But I haven't seen most of these programs in practice. We have been asking people like Mary to provide us with the information, and we have tried to document this together. But I think it is about knowing what people enjoy. And we have just heard that Anne has managed to find a hook that is the photography, the photo voice. In other cases, people like theater, or people very often are easy to engage through cultural activities or sport activities. And it depends how you package it, how you label it, and if it is speaking to this very group that you want to engage, then you manage to bring them in. But I think much more challenging is to keep people coming for some time. And I would rather look at strategies, or I would rather ask colleagues to share their experience, how they make people coming for long enough to become self-active or proactive and permanent learners.
In Clare, can you hear me? Yeah? In Clare, we work with different agencies, because it's hard. You put up a poster and you say we're going to run a course, and you hope people will turn up, but you end up with people who maybe are very well educated and they want to help their children, so they're not a priority group. The way to reach the others is through other agencies who are already working with them, so that we got good relationships with maybe family support, with the public health nurse who meets all the new babies and the mothers, with the library service. And then the schools are a very big group as well, and the preschools. And then we can create a group around what they need. And then people know, oh, they're the people who do family learning. I have a group of people who say they want to do some course, and they come to us and say, here we are, we want to do this course. So it could be first aid, it could be cookery, it could be woodwork. And then we look and see what type of tutors we have. And to keep them coming, you have to make it friendly, relaxed. Cup of tea is very important, the social network. And people come back. And sometimes in our courses, when they finish, people meet up anyway weekly because they've become friends.
It's a very good point, Mary, even just in groups coming together, that they form the relationship and they take the fear out of walking into either the school, if the family learning class is taking place in the school, or if we move them into our centres, that fear is taken away and they begin to build confidence. So it's very interesting. But your point on how to keep them and how to keep them engaged, and I suppose there's an awful lot of work to be done around finding out where their interests lie and how we can move them along. And I suppose the fear aspect, if that's gone, then they might be more open to the Education and Training Board offering other programs that may not involve direct family learning programs, but move on to different courses. And I suppose, Margaret, your story is exactly that story, that where you started off with family learning, it took the fear out of. Yeah.
When I first started off, the first day into the door, as I said, but I didn't read the whole speech that I wrote a year ago. It was very daunting, as I thought it would be. But I never felt it daunting. I felt it was with family. That's what kept me coming back. That's what, when I said to Mary when we first started talking and we put this speech together, I said I got a hunger. My hunger was to learn, because I felt comfortable with who I was with. And it went on from stage to stage. And even now that it's 12 years on further, I still have that hunger. It never went. And the people that I talk to and mix with in the community, they have the same thing. Once they meet me on the street, what are you up to now, Margaret? Because people saw in me in them days what I never saw in myself. And I thank, as I said today, and I'm saying it again, I thank everyone that I've met in life that give me that support. So I think if you have a friendly face and you have the right attitude and the right stability and the right building at times, it can work.
Totally agree, Margaret. And exactly, you begin to get that, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Okay, Claire.
Hello, I'm Eilish Dunworth from the Literacy Development Centre in Waterford Institute of Technology, and I'd like to direct my question to Ulrika. You used a term that I'm not familiar with, and I'd just like to learn a bit more about it. It was literate environments. If you could say a bit more about that, with maybe an example of how it works or what it looks like. Thank you.
Simply translated, it should be a context that makes people use their reading or writing or language skills. Situations where they are requested or required to use them. So, of course, we talk about books. Without books, people, or any reading material, people wouldn't feel like reading, no? But we talk also about situations where they are asked to do some writing. For example, when they are in a meeting with a committee and they are asked to write the minutes. Very often they are the same people who take this on, but if we are more aware, no, that some people have more reason to practice it, and if they feel confident and supported in this context to take on this task, maybe with some help, then we create an environment that helps them to use and to further develop their skills. But we can also consider a literate environment an environment that provides opportunities for people to learn and to develop their skills. If these opportunities are not there, or if the reason why they need to read and to write is not there, then the environment is not conducive to help them improving whatever learning or skills development we talk about. I don't know if this is clear.
Again, it comes back to making it relevant, isn't it, and interesting to those that engage with service. Okay, we have...
Oh, my chin. Okay, hi. This could be directed maybe to Mary or Inez, and it's really about, you know, when we were talking about reading earlier, we were saying that you should begin to read with an infant. So is there an opportunity, or maybe this is happening, but in antenatal classes, that would seem like a really good opportunity to start to engage families? You have a captive audience, and across the socioeconomic divide, I imagine that there are mothers, fathers that are there, even if that point the relationships are not good between parents, they will often attend anyway. That would seem like a really, really good starting point to engage family literacy. Has anybody any ideas, or do they know, does anything exist around that?
Certainly.
Thanks.
The Waterford Snuggle Stories will tell you about it in their workshop. I think it's the workshop is just over, but they have the public health nurse on board. It depends on who in each region is there and if there's support. So we can get referrals in Clare, so we don't know where people come from, but the public health nurse is aware that we have courses. But there isn't anything national like antenatal classes, and then you progress on to My Baby and Me type of course. But that's a very good point, but it's not structured.
Yes. Elise, would you like to comment?
Well, I think because public health nurses come under the Department of Health, there's a lot of demands placed upon them. So I think there has been attempts made to look at it being brought across systematically for all public health nurses to embrace family literacy, not just in antenatal classes, but in perhaps all of their work. And it hasn't worked yet. But I think as we're seeing a convergence of how family literacy might help in relation to maybe other health work that public health nurses and their colleagues are engaged in, it may be seen as less additional work to ask the public health nurse to do, and perhaps more integral to the health and well-being of mothers and babies, and that perhaps might be, that's a growing sense I'd have now at the moment, and maybe there's a new way of going into that than going straight from maybe the classic family literacy perspective, if that makes sense.
Very good point. The interest is there. We have another lady here, Clare. Did you? Yep.
Sorry, I'm Nicola with Waterford and Wexford ETB. So we are one of the organisations. We have a shared approach. So we work with the Public Health Service, which means that every child gets a copy of the story sack at the 9-month developmental check. But part of our approach is that we have other agencies. We have the whole SIPSI group working with us. We have the speech therapist. We have the dental health nurses. And we have a whole library service, the ETB. So there's a shared approach to introducing literacy at a very young level. At the very minimum, the 9-month developmental check.
Great, thank you. Have we any more questions? I think we've just another couple of minutes. Sir, we've time for one or two more questions. Yep, we have a lady here. We'll do 2 questions and then we'll...
It's probably more of a comment really about the engagement strategies, and it was just to say that I work with a lot of deaf schools in the Tala area, and that one of the home school liaison teachers has said that a course that we ran that had the biggest response that they've ever had was Lego. So we used Lego as the hook, and the kids actually did the recruiting for us, because they said to their parents, will you come in and play Lego with us? So it was just more of a comment, but I just think somebody already mentioned about how important that hook is. So, thanks.
That's a very good point. As a mother myself, I would feel the pressure from the children when there's something happening in school. And I suppose, Liz, this even comes back to your point in the Parents Association and getting involved, and they love to see their mother being involved and going into meetings. So, and yeah, exactly.
I suppose any of the family engagement that happens where children will see mums, dads, older brothers and sisters maybe from secondary school coming down to the primary, or even kids from 6th class going down to help with the junior infants class, where they're beginning to learn leadership, in every child in those classes. There are a range of creative programs and approaches that are being practiced countrywide. If we could just trap them and download them all and put them in some repository somewhere so everybody could draw from them. It's, and I suppose the main thing is around relationship and connection. And I suppose going back even to the literacy for the babies, there are mother and father and baby programs, learning through play. It's all connected really in terms of helping to get that connection and that relationship. So.
Thank you very much, Liz. I'd say, have we one more question? This is the last question, so thank you.
Juliette Collier, Campaign for Learning. I was really interested in the work that you've been doing with dads, because we did a lot of work with dads, and one of the things that came through at every point was actually the engagement was easier if it came through the child. So it kind of links both of those things. And one of the things that we've done we did a randomised control trial with the Education Endowment Foundation, which was a massive trial. And we created an engagement framework, and that enabled us to measure the points of contact at which the dads engaged with the programme. And in every single school and in every programme we've done since where we've used this tool, it's the personal engagement invitation through the child. We have a poster that they draw and invite the person that they wanted to come. And the least effective mechanism was a letter from the school. You won't be surprised to know. But that carries, it's not just gender related, it's in every single case. And I wondered, in terms of the work that you did with dads, once you have got them engaged, were there specific activities and types of literacy and types of things that they were really interested in?
Well, they're all the kind of typical things that, you know, you can see outside here on the wall, the Dads and Lads programs here, you know, the very much kind of the doing. So I would say it's that's kind of a gendered thing as well, you know, and that it's, you know, about like soccer, trips out, very much activity based, and then that. In the research I was doing, there wasn't one father who came because their kids told them, obviously, because the kids didn't know about the research. But what motivated them was what motivates everybody to go back, I suppose, in family learning, and more than you were saying, Margaret. You know, that idea, I can actually do something. I found something, this might be interesting for me to be involved in because it might help my kids, you know. And so I think when you can find, I mean, that is the real hook, isn't it? That is the real hook, you know. And then building on what Margaret said also, and Liz, that the initial engagement and the number of times that people come, we all know this in adult education, the number of times people come to the door and turn away and go back, but that important first, the first greeting even, do you know? And I think one of the things that really saddened me in the research was when the man said, I really want to be listened to. I really want to be treated like an adult. I mean, that's something we should all be able to expect in any learning, or in our lives really. Do you know, so it's a very significant statement if somebody says to you, I really want to be listened to when I'm there, and I really want to be respected. You know, so holding those good adult education principles in mind, and that importance of the relationship, I think, is one of the key kind of success things that we can build on, that we're also doing very well, I think, in many cases.
Okay, thank you, Anne, and thank you to all. Thank you, Anne, and thank you to all our panel speakers.